You were saying that the last 10 years has been a decline or a movement towards the far left in principle and ideology for the Liberal Party. I opine that the reason why we saw a debate or even a change of government was because essentially Canadians disapproved of the work of Justin Trudeau over the last 10 years. 22% approval rating, that's what he had as at December last year when he said he was going to step down from office. Canadians not only disapprove of his work, they disapprove of someone like his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. But now, the entire race, and in fact, the rhetoric that we are seeing right now, has nothing to do with that disapproval over the last 10 years. It looks to me like there is a deflection from the real problems that the country has been dealing with, issues with affordability, rising numbers of food banks, clogged healthcare system, and housing crisis going on, immigration crisis that they caused. Now talking about even drugs across the border, porous borders that Trump has talked about. Nobody's talking about that anymore. In fact, we're not talking about the 62 billion deficit that Chrystia Freeland left us in the fall. Everything now has been taken over by the conversations about Trump's tariff. But I don't think that's the fundamental problem that we have in the country. It's an additional problem, but I don't think that's the fundamental problem. I don't know how you appraise that political deflection that we're seeing right now.
We have a problem in Canada with how people get their information and what becomes topical, what becomes the ballot box question. And in order to really clearly define what the ballot question is or going to be, you need an informed public. I mean, right now, what you're seeing from, I hate to say this, but legacy media, they all watch each other and they'll try to cover the same stories, and it's all about the flavor of the day. Only on podcasts like yours, you go in depth into some of the issues and you try to understand what is actually really happening. You don't have a whole lot of that anymore. I'm invited to podcasts all the time. This is my third this week alone. And I have my own podcast as well. And I think people are starting to really shift away from legacy media because of that. Because right now, you're absolutely right. It's all about tariffs and Trump. And everyone is asking the same question: who's the best prime minister to face Donald Trump? But to your point, I actually think it's a really important point. It's not just about Donald Trump, it's about the future of our country and the problems that we have to face and address. And for many years, we actually haven't addressed. And right now, we have the fascination around Donald Trump is forcing us to look at interprovincial trade barriers. And now, all of a sudden, we just fixed everything. We didn't fix everything. So last week, Ottawa announced that it was eliminating all trade barriers. But what was missed is that it is eliminating all trade barriers. What was missed is that provinces have to do the heavy lifting. But not only that, food is excluded, which is my area. Food is not going to be tackled. Why? Because of supply management. And we all know why supply management is being excluded, because it's a political bomb. It's suicide for any politicians to actually address supply management because of the quota system. And there's $30 billion worth of quotas out there. Farmers would want to hold on to their quotas. So there's a lack of audacity to address issues. The deficit is another one, 62 billion. My goodness, we should be screaming off of our rooftops to say, listen, our children and our grandchildren will be paying for this. But nobody's really paying any attention to some of these things. And we are taxed a lot in Canada. I think most Canadians don't mind being taxed if it's spent well in a responsible manner. But if it's not spent well, we've seen a lot of scandals when it comes to spending in the last decade or so. I think people feel uneasy about the accountability, the level of accountability that we have seen coming from Ottawa in the last decade or so.
Is the issue you mentioned with media and even trust in mainstream media, which I don't really want us to get into because that's another kettle of
And I
fish on
deal a
its own.
lot with media myself, and I can understand, like, I've been dealing with media for 25 years. I do 20, 30 interviews a week with media. I get it. I mean, they're under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. Most of the time, I have to spend 5 minutes just to explain what the issue is, because they don't understand. They're being asked by their editor, their boss, to cover this or that, and they have 2.5 minutes to explain to the Canadian public a very complex issue. And we've seen cuts, lots of cuts. Like, some reporters have to do the work that typically 3 people would do about 10 years ago. So I get it. It's been tough for them for sure. And of course, they're paid right now by Ottawa. And so they're scared. If conservatives actually win, we're going to see even more layoffs in the media. So you can see that there's a bit of a bias towards the status quo because of that. But what I'm starting to see, though, are Canadians noticing that they're not well served by the media, legacy media. And that's why Trump's win, I think, was the trigger. I deal with a lot of Americans myself. Since Trump's win, I don't know about your podcast, but my podcast, the listenership has actually exploded because all of a sudden people are saying, you know what? I'm going to get, if Trump got elected by going on podcasts in America, maybe something is going on there that I want to know. And so a lot more people are actually going towards podcasts now and to get their information. And who can blame them?
Yeah, very much rightfully so. And that's why I think someone like Pierre Poilievre, which is this is on the side note, someone like Pierre Poilievre, I think is doing himself a little bit of a disservice by actually not going on podcast. He's playing the Kamala Harris
He's not
card
going with any
that
podcasts?
he's only dealing with mainstream media. The only podcast I've seen Pierre Poilievre is Jordan Peterson. And is that sufficient? No, because Peterson's is a niche audience, bunch of other podcasts. And I get it also. Canada does not yet have a strong podcast voice like the United States that really helped Trump. And the like of Rogan and Lex Friedman. Those were the podcasts that really pushed Trump in the poll. I don't think Pierre Poilievre is doing a great job with that, to be honest. The other topic like this, which this is going to sound like I'm attacking you and people from your field of work now, is academia. Of late, actually in the last 10 years, if Canadians have not paid attention well, academia has a lot of sway when it comes to public policies. Government and media is going to come talk to people like you, and they're expecting unbiased opinion. Hopefully, that's what they're expecting. But of late, you know what I found actually in academia is there's a kind of an intellectual spell that is on a lot of fields. Especially the social policies in Canada. And I don't think academia has been honest. And I say that carefully because I've read a lot of papers on Google Scholar. The problem is we don't have diversity of thought in academia in Canada. Let me get your opinion about that. What do you think about that?
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, you're an intellectual, okay? You understand this. I'm not sure Canadians understand what's going on with academia. Academia for, I'd say, so I've been an academic for 25 years. And, by the time I actually started my career, it was already happening. I mean, I do think that academia has been hijacked by the left. 95% of academics are left-leaning, and it's been studied. There are papers on this. As an academic, you're hardwired to write grant proposals. Okay, that's not, you're intellectual, but you're not in academia. But to survive in academia, you need to do research. In order to do research, you need grants. But in order to get grants, you have to write grant proposal based on what the government actually wants. People don't understand that governments will frame research agendas all over the country.
Revaluate is a project I embarked upon to spark meaningful conversations that can inspire critical thinking as we navigate the adventures of life. The analytics on this channel show about 95% of the viewers on the channel haven't subscribed yet. So you do me a favor by clicking the subscribe button right now. Then I'll keep my promise to continually improve on the quality of the conversations that are produced on this channel every time.